Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and I represent the Great District, the 11th Assembly District in the state of New York. I'm so honored and proud to partner with Community Watch with our great host, Bishop Andy Luter, who would bring you various elected officials to discuss their platform, who they are, so you could be able to know who are the great people that represent you in the different levels of government. It's an honor for me to partner with Community Watch to help you understand what's happening right here on Long Island, right here where you live in your community.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Jean-Pierre. Listen, I am Andy C. Luter, and this is Community Watch. It is a weekly community television magazine program that is designed to acquaint you with shakers and movers in our community that impact the quality of life. I want to thank our Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre for her sponsorship of this program. This is on the Government Access Channel, and because of her participation and her input, you are able to see us. Listen, today I have returning to the studio DuWayne Gregory, and he's here for a number of different reasons, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but let me give you just a moment for him to say hello. Welcome again.
Thank you, Bishop, for allowing me to be here. And it's an honor to be on the show with you today to talk about issues impacting the community and what's next for me.
Okay. Well, again, this is sponsored by Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre. It is Community Watch, and we are particularly grateful and indebted to County Legislator DuWayne Gregory, because he is actually the person who opened the door and the opportunity for us to come to you in this particular way. He was the initial sponsor of this programming. We called it DuWayne Gregory Presents, and perhaps many of you have seen several of the episodes that we created under that name. Now, DuWayne Gregory is doing some other things, and as a result of that, at his suggestion and recommendation, we're now sponsored by the Assemblywoman, and we're delighted for that. But we wanted to bring DuWayne Gregory back primarily for an exit interview and talk about his shift, the move in his own career, and those things that he continues to be passionate about. So, Brother Gregory, let's start here. When the renewal of this programming became available, you were shifting roles and hats. And because you're now in an appointed position, the technicality of being appointed required us to make some changes. Can you tell our viewers what has been happening with you for the last several weeks?
So, in November was my last election. In Suffolk County, we have term limits. I wasn't anticipating making the move, but the opportunity came available with former Councilwoman Jackie Gordon announced her retiring, and she's going to be leaving the town. I decided to look at that opportunity, and I'll be vacating my seat as a county legislator on effective January 15th, and appointed to the town board as a council member replacing Jackie Gordon. And because of the way the law is of being an appointment, that's what required the Cablevision and saw that as not as an elected position yet, but as an appointed position. So it was a technicality as to why I couldn't sponsor the program. But I enjoy being the county legislator. I've been there for 11 years, but I'm going to be serving the same constituents in the capacity of town council, and I look forward very much to doing that.
So when the Assemblywoman was with us, she shared with us that term limits for the county is 12 years.
Yes.
And so you've just mentioned that you've been there 11 years, and so this would have been your last year, and so it would have been time to kind of look in some new directions.
Yeah, well, I got elected in a special election, so I would have been able to stay until December 21. But as you know, with elected politics and office, you got to take opportunities when you get them. You can't really put it on your schedule. I wasn't anticipating this opening to happen until maybe beginning of next year. Knock on wood. Hopefully, Jackie Gordon gets elected to Congress, so she get a king seat. So this really was just a surprise. I was on vacation and came back and was presented with this opportunity and had to make a quick decision right away. But again, it's something that I look forward to, and I'm excited about the opportunity.
So let's talk about this, because persons who are hearing this for the first time may be making some assumptions, because when we think of local government, we think either village government, then we think town government, then we think county government, then we think state government, and then we think federal government. So talk to us about what prompted you to kind of move in this direction, because under normal circumstances, you would be going to the next level, which we would have assumed would have been state or even federal. But you're returning to the county, because this is kind of really where you started.
Yeah. I started in town government back in 2000. I was a special assistant to the town supervisor, and then I became a deputy commissioner for the highway department, covering buildings and grounds. And then I was the commissioner for general services. And then I left the town and went to Suffolk OTB. I was there as associate director for corporate services. And in 2008, I got elected in a special election for the 15th legislative district. So yes, in some respects, it's coming back to my roots. Each level of government does different things. The county obviously oversees county laws, county agencies. The town government is really, it's, a lot of its power and influences with zoning, and planning, making sure that our streets are taken care of, our parks are safe and beautiful. So it's different capacity, different interests, and different things that you get to work on, which I'm really excited about.
So for 11 years, you've operated in town government. You've operated, in county government. And you've had an opportunity to become involved in a number of campaigns and a number of causes on the county level. Now, as you look back over those 11 years, what items are you most proud of and anxious to let people know that these are the things that you were involved in?
Yeah, so it literally was exciting from day one, getting elected to the legislature. Shortly after I got elected in a special election. It was in August, or I got sworn in August of 2008. I think it was in November. We had the Lucero, hate crime that happened in Patchogue. Because of that hate crime, I established a hate crimes task force, and we held public hearings all across the county. We had a bunch of people, stakeholders, that are part of this task force. And we created some programs that were very instrumental, even to this day. We have a hate crimes advocate, because at that time people were saying they were victims of hate crimes, but they had no one to go to that they felt confidence in. So now we have someone who's bilingual, who they're former police officers, and they're able to go to them and feel that if an incident happens, that their complaint is going to be addressed properly. Because at that time we had a county executive that was kind of stirring the pot too of ethnic and racial division. He was targeting with his rhetoric, undocumented immigrants. So they were very reluctant to come to the government and say, hey, I've been a victim of a hate crime, but now we have these individuals that are there to help them. So that's something literally almost right out the gate that I'm very proud of. Just recently, the Sandy Review Task Force. Yes. I found that my experience in government is we have these incidents that happen, particularly weather events, and they get passed and that's it. We don't like to talk about them. And this process was a 2-year process. It allowed us the opportunity to review what we did right and to see areas where we have weakness, so we can correct them. Because we don't know when the next major storm is going to be. It could be tomorrow. It could be 5, 15, 20 years from now. But my perspective is we should be planning for that event, learning from our past mistakes, improving upon what we did right, so that we're better prepared for the future. And so we did that. We put our report. It had over 100 recommendations in it, from recommendations for a town, county, state and federal government levels of government. So we're going to be moving forward with that. And also my work with the millennials and the next generation advisory council that I created. getting millennials involved in the local government process and have them voice their concerns so they can have a future here in Suffolk County.
Over the last 11 years, and as a community leader of sorts, one of the things that I'm most proud of during the time that you were in county government is the history that you made as the first African American speaker of the county legislature. How did that come about, and how did that alter your workings in county government?
That's something that I'm very proud of. Being the presiding officer of the legislature is just like you said. It's like the speaker in Congress, and the first person of color to hold that position. It's in a position that you're elected by your colleagues, and it's very influential. There's a lot of things you can do to influence the agenda in the county. I was able to do it for 6 years. I'm the third longest serving person as presiding officer, and I'm very proud of that. And have the opportunity to show our young people who that we have positive, not only just male, but positive, people of color that are out there that are doing things, and maybe give a spark in the eye of someone who may not even think about or thought about running for office or being in government before, saying, hey, this person came to my school, and I would do a lot of speaking at schools. Would say, well, maybe I would like to do that someday, So you never know. I had a young man who came to me, and I had seen him at various events, and he came to me and he said at one event, he says, I'm so proud of you. He said, I've watched you, and it was clear to me that, people are watching you when you don't realize it.
That's right.
So I have to make sure that I'm projecting the right image for them, and that was really something that really touched me.
So now you're coming home to town of Dublin, and you've been on the administrative side. You've worked in different departments here in the town, but now you're moving on to the legislative side. And I would imagine that that's going to be just a little bit different. Now, before I go there, I just want to kind of quickly mention that we did a number of programs when we were doing DuWayne Gregory Presents, and we dedicated one of our programs to you as the sponsor of the program, and we went back in our library and we found some footage of an interview that you and I had done when you had first been elected. So that was over 11 years ago. You had a lot more hair then. It was black. You were a little thinner, a little more drawn in the face. And so we're going to make sure that you get a chance to kind of take a look at that footage so that you can say, look how far I have come. But you're coming back to the town of Babylon. You've been in public works. You've been in some of the departments. You've headed some of the departments in the town. But now you have a seat at the table as it relates to legislation on the town level. How is that going to be different from you? And how will you employ your legislative experience on the county level here in the town of Babylon?
Right. No, I think it's going to be... obviously, it's different because you have different authorities and opportunities. But using my experience as a legislator, as a presiding officer, because I think sometimes we get used to running things a certain way, and then you have someone with an outside perspective coming in. We can change things up a little bit. One thing that I'm very interested in is the Opportunity Zone program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a part of the federal tax law that was passed a few years ago.
Okay.
Which allows those high wealth individuals to reduce their tax liability by investing in what's called opportunity funds. And opportunity funds invest in opportunity zones, which are based on census tract data. And the governor appoints the opportunity zones. So there's been some wonderful things done across the country, like Birmingham, Alabama, for instance. And it's all done at a local level. So these opportunity zones, Wyandanch is one of them. They have to market themselves to the opportunity fund. Say, hey, we want you to invest in our community, and this is why. I want to very much get involved in that. So I couldn't do that at the county level, so I'm looking to do that at the town level. And ensuring that every community has the resources that they need, that they're shared equally and fairly. And So I'm really excited about that. I really am.
So let me ask you this, because a little while back, in addition to Wyandanch, I think North Amityville, was one of those empowerment zones or economic zones. We've had some buildings take place in North Amityville. Has that displaced the status of North Amityville, or how has that impacted? We have Gray Bond, and there are some buildings going on now at the railroad station and in the vicinity of the transit center of Amityville. How does that impact persons who live in this community?
Well, you know, you have to always keep an eye out for gentrification, but also trying to meet the needs of the local community or just the community at large. Before I got on the legislature, there was a study that they had convened, that Rutgers had convened, that said we needed 90,000 affordable housing units at that time. That was 2007. We're nowhere near that. So we have to find a way to build affordable housing so that our young people can afford to stay here, but do it in a way that we're not breaking up communities, and people who want to stay there can afford to remain there, but also bringing in economic development. Because you want to generate, and stimulate the tax base in those communities so that they can thrive and give them an opportunity to do so, and get investment from people living in the community.
Sure.
Allowing the community to uplift themselves with economic opportunity.
Great. Friends, again, I am Andy C. Luter, and you're watching Community Watch. It is a television magazine program that is intended to acquaint or reacquaint you with persons in our community who impact our lives. Today, we're talking with County Legislator DuWayne Gregory, and he's returning to town government. Very, very quickly, I want to give a shout out to Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre. She is the sponsor of this program, Community Watch, and it's because of her support that we're able to come to you in this fashion. Again, our guest today is County Legislator DuWayne Gregory, and he is returning to town government. So what are some of your goals and objectives? You talked about the empowerment zones or the opportunity zones that you'll be able to do in terms of town government. What are some of the other areas that you now will be able to associate and connect with on the behalf of your constituency?
Well, one of the things that Jackie Gordon had did, she was responsible for the veterans programs in the town. She was the only veteran on the board. I'm a veteran, so I'll certainly be taking over those responsibilities. The UGMA internship program, which I was one of the co-founders for, is an important program that's been going 20 years now. It allows children from communities, the underserved communities that wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity to get familiar with town government, to get that exposure. And we've had some great people come through the program, going on to do great things. I'll be overseeing that program as well. So my heart and passion is young people. So anything I can do to give exposure to young people is something I'm going to get behind. Expanding what we do with our veterans, millennials, ensuring that our young people have the opportunity to stay here, and working with the various communities, ensure that they have the resources that they feel that they deserve and need. Something I can be working on as well, and trying to help create, stimulate more economic opportunities for the community.
When Kimberly Jean-Pierre was here with us just about a week ago, she talked about this expose that came out not too terribly long ago that revealed that there seems to still be some systemic racism as it relates to real estate and the acquisition of property here on Long Island. And there seems to be a need for sensitivity training or a consciousness. It was discovered that certain real estate agents were pointing couples and people to certain directions. How do you see the plight of that dilemma and problem, and what would be some of your suggested remedies for such?
Yeah, it's just the timing is unfortunate. I had just passed a bill, a fair housing bill, to address the results of that study, which we have people from Erase Racism and other agencies. They're going to be coming together and addressing that issue. From my perspective, I think we need to have more people of color as real estate agents. We need to ensure that because as a real estate agent, I used to have my real estate license. You have to get continue education credits.
Sure.
I think it's like 19 and a half credits every 2 years, or whatever it is. Fair housing is a part of that, but making sure that there's an emphasis on real estate agents and brokers getting that training. I remember, interesting that I'm coming back to the town. When I used to run the constituent services, I was sitting at my desk, got a call from a woman. She was from West Babylon, hysterical. And I guess she obviously didn't realize I was African American. She says to me, "They're blockbusting my community," and I ain't never heard of that term. I said, "Well, man, what do you mean?" She goes, "Well, this black family just moved on my block." I'm like, "Okay," and she said that, "Well, what can the town do? Can you quote help trickle them in while I sell my house?" So there's many things that are wrong with that. One, that she thought that it was appropriate for the government to help steer people away or, from certain communities. But the fact that she herself was offended that people of color were moving into her community was obviously hurtful to me. But you have real estate agents that are doing those things, those very same things, steering people to certain communities. And I think some of it is, like my parents, they moved out from the South Bronx. You don't know Wyandanch from West Babylon to Brentwood. You just know what the agent's telling you where to go.
Sure. And
they may be steering you to certain communities. So I think there is some of that. But I think still, we have to educate, brokers and the power that they have and showing that, my perspective, I'm sure you're the same. If you have the ability to live in a certain community, you should be able to live in that community.
That's right.
It shouldn't be based on your race or ethnicity. So we have to do all that we can to do that. I know Kimberly at the state and others have come up with some solutions and things at the state level. The bill that I created, the Fair Housing Task Force, will do something at the county level. But the town will certainly help and do what we can too. That's certainly something I would get involved with as well.
And so since we're talking about this, and I raised this question for Sister John Pierre, and that is that, and we're talking about division in our community, and I don't want this to become a conversation that's partisan as it relates to the national political scene. But it is obvious and apparent that we're suffering from a divide and a schism in this country that is an assault on exactly who we are as Americans. And I know that on a town level, there's perhaps very little that can be done. But I want to talk about the ideology of politics. I want to talk about what is the mindset, what ought to be our attitude to kind of heal the hurt that we have seen for the last 3 years, and we don't know if it's going to continue another 4 years, but certainly the civility that we have grown accustomed to in the last 20, 25 years seems to be under assault and attack. People are taking liberties, their attitudes, they're expressing themselves, just as you were just talking about. People are feeling that it is okay to outwardly speak in racial tones and contribute to that division. What can you do, even on a local level, to kind of heal some of that hurt?
Well, I think that's one big reason why it's important to have a diverse board. Jackie Gordon being, she's not African American, she's a Jamaican American woman, but certainly being someone of color or black, continue to have the representation on the board is important.
That's right.
We have someone who's Latino on the board. We have the most diverse board of any town, certainly in Suffolk County. I'm not sure about Long Island, but Suffolk County certainly. I think that's important, because I think a lot of it is just exposure.
Okay.
People are exposed to things, so they kind of fearful of that. When they see that we have a diverse board and the world hasn't ended, I think that certainly, I think helps. But I think certainly you have to do more than that, having conversations, and I certainly would be a part of that. But it's yeah, you're right. When Obama got elected, there was a rise. All statistics show there was a rise in these white nationalists and hate groups. When Trump got elected, those groups are still, they were in the shadows with Obama, but now these people are coming out of the shadows. And I don't know if it's the media so much. I think it may be a combination of the media, and not advertising, but talking more openly about some of the incidents, because it certainly seems to be more incidents that are being discussed, and people just more open about it. And I've been watching CNN, and there was a woman. They were doing an interview about the young kids that were in these detention centers, and it was a white woman, in I think Nevada or something, about 70, 65 years old. She goes, "Don't try to make me feel sad about those kids in cages." Wow, So she felt comfortable to say, "I really don't care that they're in horrible conditions."
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's this is where we are.
Several years ago, we saw the first appearance of the Tea Party, and now it appears that the Tea Party is on steroids.
Right.
There's been a license to move and to operate no longer in the shadows, but out in the open. Let's talk about your more immediate future has to do with the town. But when you see DuWayne Gregory 10 years from now, 15 years from now, what is DuWayne Gregory doing?
Get me a job. Hopefully, being elected and or serving, and you don't have to be elected to serve the public, but serving in capacity where I'm having an impact, and people are responding to that in a positive way. Because I think sometimes people do get lost. They serve the public and they forget where they came. And my wife is. She's very been open about, I'll support you as long as you continue to do what's right. And so she keeps me grounded.
That's good.
Keeps my ego in check. And so certainly, doing something positive. I don't know if I'll still be at the town or what the capacity at the town, but in some way helping the community.
Okay.
And I hope by then I'll have some grandkids.
Well, listen, friends, my name is Andy C. Luter, and this is Community Watch. I want you to tell your neighbors, tell your friends that Community Watch is available. We do have a YouTube presence. We have a Facebook presence. We're going on a Roku channel that will be on in the not too terrible distant future. And I want to publicly, again, thank DuWayne Gregory. He has not opened the door, not turned the knob. He kicked the door open that made it possible for us to have this kind of entree to you. And following in his footsteps is State Assemblywoman Kimberly John Pierre. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your attention. Please know that we'll be here every week. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Hi, I'm Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and I represent the 11th Assembly District. I hope you had a great time watching Community Watch, and I hope you were able to have a deeper understanding of the various elected officials and know who they are and got a chance to meet them throughout the different segments of shows with our great host, Bishop Andy Luter. Keep looking out for your local elected officials and stay informed.